Welcome to the Practice You podcast. My name is Elena Brower. Let's dive into today's conversation regarding life's myriad transitions and how we refine our responses in our relationships, our wellness, our households, our work, and in our practices. You are invited to learn and love and listen with me. Welcome to Practice You. Welcome back to the podcast. This is a very special episode in honor of the launch of my new book entitled Hold Nothing. It means so much to me to release this project into the world. It's been a long time coming, almost 3 years of writing, a second iteration entirely. And I have with me today a very special guest, an old friend and officially new colleague. Sara Bercholz is a second-generation book publisher. She is co-owner and publisher of her family business, Shambhala Publications. She's a Buddhist practitioner, a yogi, a cook, and an outdoorswoman. And she lives in Boulder, Colorado with her 2 children, Milo and Dashiell. And boy, is it a pleasure and a long time coming to welcome you here, Sara. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Elena. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, wow. I want to give a shout out to Joshua Onisko for connecting us all those many, many, many years ago when you came to visit New York and we became friends. Our kids were tiny. Josh, thank you so much for introducing us for really what has become a wonderful and real, deep, enriching relationship in my life. I speak for myself.
Mine
Sara,
too.
Yes.
And Joshua is such an amazing connector. Thank you, Joshua.
Yes, sir. Sara, this project started in one way, and I really thought it was going to be this sort of treatise on 5 years of Zen training and what Zen means to me and some of the teachings as they pertain to humanity at this time in my understanding. However, when I submitted that first version of the book, it just wasn't the thing that we were looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. And Beth came back to me so sweetly and diplomatically. It was like, honey, this isn't the book, but I believe in you. You're going to go back and start over, and it's going to be great. And that's precisely what I did. And I wonder what it was like from your end to be knowing that I had to do it all over and that it was going to turn out as beautifully as it did. You had a lot of faith. Thank you.
I did. Well, we had another start before that, even when in its first iteration, it was going to be your next journal. And I said, not another journal, Elena. Let's do something else, right? And then you came back with that Zen treatise. And, I have faith in you because I have known you over time, and you are somebody for whom it is easy to have faith in because of the person that you are and that you've become, but always what has been at your essence, which is what I have always seen as the desire to be of deep benefit. So I knew that we were holding that together and that you could go further in accomplishing that with this book, because there will be other books. And I think particularly as you've embarked with such passion on your Zen journey, on your Zen path, that it feels like that will come, and it will come in a way that suits the progression of that path for you. But with where things were now and what I was hoping for from the next book from quote unquote Elena Brower for your readers and for the people who have been along the journey with you, to give them a stepping stone. And I think that that is what this book is. Either that or a deep dive. It could be held as either.
Mm-hmm. It was both in my experience. I ended up going back to this little tiny notebook that I had from, of course, it's Japanese notebook. And I had started writing like sort of my stories into this tiny little notebook. I couldn't bear to write it in a big hand. So in this tiny little notebook that sort of flips up like an old school journalist's carry around spiral notebook, I was writing all the little tales of what I thought were formative moments of my life. And it turned out that many of those made it directly into the book, and that little tiny book served as my Bible for the time of writing. And I wrote it over the ensuing probably 2 years. And it is a deep dive into a lot of the things that happened in my life that paved the way for me to find Zen and to actually appreciate Zen and not turn away from it because it was scary or weird or too quiet or too slow. It really was my first understanding of what it means to hold nothing. And I'm glad that we did it like this. And I'm so thankful, gosh, for you and for Beth Frankel, my editor, for holding that for me, because I don't know if this would have happened. And now the people who have the journals, who've read Softening Time, the poetry collection, now have an understanding of where I came from and how I got to this point of appreciating and savoring my life in this way, and in a very different way than I was, say, 15 years ago.
Well, and it's also in that way, not that you can fast forward through any of that, but your level of vulnerability in telling your story, in showing your life and the challenges, heartbreak, addiction, fear, loss, all of that, and putting it on the table with such an open heart is really an invitation, as the title alludes to, for the reader to have the opportunity to take that example and apply it to their own life and come home to themselves.
It's interesting. I didn't really believe in any of it until, in the sort of saliency of any of it, validity of any of it, until you said that you were sitting in some place, I think you were in Europe somewhere, reading the first or second iteration of the manuscript, and you had tears. You said you were crying. And it was then that I thought, okay, this is something.
I was actually in British Columbia, in a really remote, not a town, just a remote part of British Columbia, sitting, looking out over water and woods and reading the manuscript and having tears all the way through and feeling, I don't mean this in a patronizing way whatsoever, but so proud of you, like to have read it and for you to have brought your whole self to it and let go of your whole self through it was so incredible to encounter. And I say that as somebody who knows and loves you, but also as somebody who has been reading books as a passionate reader and as a professional book publisher for my whole life as a reader and for more than 2 decades as a book publisher, and to be struck so deeply with the authenticity and poignancy of your words was just so touching, and continues to be. I have the book open in front of me as we're talking, and just looking at the title page like makes my heart swell.
Speaking of vulnerable, I have this feeling of great fragility and slight inner chaos right now as I'm talking to you. I feel like pretty open, and a lot of these stories are very personal, and I just literally have no idea where this is going next because I can't place myself anywhere anymore. I know that I am going to be a chaplain, in some way a communal chaplain, not necessarily a professional chaplain. I know that graduation will happen in March of next year, and that's all going to be a big stepping stone for me. And I know that I really want to continue volunteering. I know that I want to continue writing because practice is so full of insights and depth of ease that I've never felt before. And I want to write about it so that I can share it, as you said, to be of benefit. But I have no idea who I am anymore.
How does that feel? Does it feel like sort of boundless and at the same time terrifying?
Both.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how this book feels. I felt such admiration for what feels like bravery in laying yourself so bare on the pages. And also the sort of like courage of doing that as an offering without it being about you is what makes it powerful.
I'm reading Judith Hanson Lasseter's blurb for the book. It ended up on the back cover. And at first read, I was like, oh, dear, I wonder if this is okay. I wonder if this is okay. And I'm going to read it because I'm still tossing it around in my heart. But I know Judith is like my second mom and such a force and a legend in the world of yoga and of nonviolent communication as well. She writes, despite its title, this book holds many things. My attention, my admiration for its author, and even the softness and sweet sadness I feel when reading it. Don't miss this opportunity to discover your own rich emptiness by savoring Hold Nothing, like a delicious, perfectly ripe fruit. Truly a treasure this weary world needs.
Only she could write that, right?
Only she could write that.
What a queen.
May we live like a lotus at home in the muddy water. When I read this sadness part, I was like, oh God. And my internalized patriarchy, internalized perfectionarchy was like rising up. And I was thinking maybe I should ask her to take that out or something. And then I realized, no, you know what? All of us have had these terrible, deep sadnesses in our lives. All of us have been disappointed. All of us have been afraid. And all of us are tasked with this choice to let go of what was and what hurts, and not to forget it, and not to repress it, and not to sweep it under some rug somewhere, but to move forward and live today like it's the only day we've got, because it is.
It is, and she says sweet sadness, which I think is so apropos because it's not sadness for sadness' sake or self-pitying sadness. It's the sadness that is inherent in human existence. And turning away from that is a disservice, but looking at it, letting go of it, feeling it, letting go of it, it's real, it's sweet, and it's part of, just the human experience.
I also am going to read just one line. Liz Gilbert, God bless her, gave a beautiful blurb about this book. I can't get over it. She and I were introduced late last year and instantly connected. She's one of the ones that I then find out that she's been practicing with me on Glow for years. And we didn't know each other, and I can't tell you what that means to me, the amount of work that I pour into those classes. But she wrote, this is a book to sit with, to pray with, to dream with. It is both a sanctuary and a compass. Wow. Whispering us back to the center of what is most essential, most holy, and most alive within us. That girl.
I mean, reading each of those, one from Judith and one from Liz Gilbert. I don't know Elizabeth Gilbert personally, but have read all of her books. And it's also hearing those words, reading those words. It's like nobody else could write that. And if you know her work and you hear what she's saying, it's so alive.
It's so alive.
Yeah, she's radical.
Yep. And by the time this comes out, it'll be within days that Diego Perez, Young Pueblo, and I will be meeting together, God willing, inshallah, at the Strand to talk about this book. I sat with him at the Y when he released his book Lighter, maybe 2 years ago, also in New York at the 92nd Street Y. And he said yes to talking to me. And I wanted to read his blurb because it meant the world to me to hear his words. And then I can tell you a little bit about the story, our sort of origin story. Elena is one of my heroes, he writes, and she has changed my life for the better. The wisdom and calm energy that Elena radiates is felt in these pages. Hold nothing as the exact guidance all of us need as the world keeps changing. This is a must-read for anyone who wants to take their personal transformation work to a deeper level. We met through Instagram many years ago. And he asked if I would agree to take a walk with him around Central Park. And I did, of course. He just seemed so great. His DM and then his email and his energy were just so kind and so humble. And this was before he was, millions of followers and millions of books sold and just who he has now become. He's still the same person, exactly the same person with whom I walked around that park. And the way that he serves has inspired my service. Like, how do I figure out how to get this shorter, more pithy, and more meaningful? And every time the answer is one answer, and it's sit down. From his practice to mine, there's a transmission. He sits for an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. Like, wow. And so every time I'm wondering about something, I just do what Diego would do. And I
sit down.
Yep, that's it. It's so delicious.
It's a great example.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you happen to remember, and if you don't, it's fine, any of the parts that really touched you? And I can do a little reading or you can read. I'm interested to hear.
Honestly, a lot of it sort of like swirls. I've been with the art more than the words of late. And I've been loving the way that the art is so reflective of the way that the words feel. But there are a few of your stories that really stand out to me. And perhaps it's where I am in this season of my life. But a lot of it is the things that you share about your mother. And, sometimes it's directly about her, but a lot of the time it's about the way that you felt as being the recipient of her particular kind of love, her particular kind of attention or inattention. And I really love the way that you do that you tell story and it's about, say, your mother or your sister or a boy that you help to teach in some volunteer work. But what you're telling is about the way things feel, about the way that the experience that we have as a sister, as a daughter, as a mother. Your story is about Jonah and your relationship with him. And those are really about like the way that our children are mirrors to us. So I love that. I love the way that in your storytelling, what I come away with, even though I do have the impressions like of the art setup that your mother gives you, or of these moments with Jonah when he's individuating or whatever, some of it really sticks. But what actually remains are these impressions of relationship and the way that we mirror or the way that we imprint on one another and the decisions that we can make in how we go forward in the world in doing that with awareness and with an open heart and with empathy and compassion.
Thank you for that. I think, too, that there's enough about impermanence and the way that has touched me, even before I found Zen as a practice, or even I wasn't even really aware of it as a practice even. When my mom passed, I had to learn the basic fundament of Zen without the Zen language. So when I found the Zen language, it was like, welcoming the passage of time. Oh, welcoming the shifting of my role. Oh, welcoming the fact that I have no idea what I'm
You're
supposed
like,
to be
somebody said
doing.
these things? Like, whoa, mind blown, right?
My mind was sufficiently blown when I found all of Zen. And, now sort of deepening into the women of Zen and the men teachers that really resonate with me, particularly the ones in my lineage like Shunryu Suzuki and Dainin Katagiri Roshi. It's like, it's a whole new world. I just have no idea who I'm becoming. And literally, I say that in this moment. I truly have no idea. People are always asking me, who does your branding? And I'm like, nobody. So who does your social media? Me. Who writes your emails? Me. Who answers your emails? Me. And I have just no idea what is coming next from this. And I think the biggest lesson that I've got from this book is the boundary that we placed on the length of things. It's very easy to read in little short bursts. The art that you requested based on the initial art that I turned in, which was more of sort of having form. This is formlessness for the most part. And I think it really speaks to this sort of bridge that I'm on, because the book is a bridge, but I'm on the bridge. And I'm going from knowing exactly who I am and thinking I know what I need and what I want to having truly no idea. I'm standing in the middle of those things and having to practice what I preach and sit down and get used to the fact that nothing is solid or known.
I mean, amen. It's so beautiful. And just even hearing you say that out loud and knowing that people are going to hear you say that and to read this book, I feel such hope, because we're not taught that, at least not in the culture that we live in. And just like what you said, it wasn't until you actually started diving into Zen, it was like, oh, somebody said these things, but we're not taught that, and we're not really given permission to not be somebody. And I find it so remarkable and so powerful with this book and with who you are in this moment on this bridge, as somebody who so many people admire, trust, look up to, your empire of sort of incredible output that you are doing all of. And for somebody like that, like you, to say, I don't know who I am, or there's no me there, it's such a powerful thing, because none of us really do. And any idea that we have of ourselves is a construct. And anytime we do make the time and space to sit down, that's so abundantly clear. But really, just thank you for talking about it. Thank you for showing and for being a formless example.
Formlessness and boundlessness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I thought I would read maybe one or two of the prompts from page 29, since we're on the topic of impermanence. This book, for our listener, there are, at the end of each small, short section, which, each one takes just a handful of moments to read, there are prompts. So if you're a teacher of any kind, doesn't matter for whom, it can be children or peers or a yoga class or a meditation class, anything. Even some university classes could probably make do with some of these prompts. What can this present moment teach you about impermanence? It's such a great prompt. If I were to answer it right now, I would say everything and nothing at all. I have no idea. I know one thing, actually. One thing is friendship matters.
Mm-hmm.
And, working with friends and supporting friends, I have a full, open heart right now in the midst of a lot of terror in the world. My heart is full and open because I'm working with a friend who is supportive, whom I'm supporting, who believes in me and believed in me when I wasn't quite believing in myself at all. So maybe this present moment is teaching us about friendship and the importance of that as it relates to being comfortable with impermanence.
I love the way that the prompts work in conjunction with your stories. And to what I was saying before about your storytelling in this book, they feel like offerings that are about your life. And it is a gift to meet sort of the rawness of somebody that people look up to. I think that's really, it's not something that we're often given a glimpse of. So I think that that's really wonderful. But also, what comes through so strongly is that it's not about you, Elena Brower, personality. It's about this human being and a thing that happened in her life as an example of an idea or a feeling or something to contemplate around a topic that's as important as something like impermanence. And so the prompts come after the story allows you a glimpse into an example, and the prompts are sort of contextualized, and the reader's allowed to really be able to see and maybe feel, okay, how can I sit with this in my life? And they just are so well paired in that way. You can read them, certainly, and contemplate them without the text that comes before. But I find the pairing of them really just opens up a different opportunity of depth.
Mm. Yeah, I think, Beth, in the editing process, and so were you were both really clear about that, how they could and must sort of feed each other. I loved the challenge. I remember sitting at the dining room table or wherever we were and everywhere we were during the course of those 2 years and saying, man, I've got to figure this out. And then suddenly, like it was nothing at all. I would close my eyes or I would just sit still, very still for some time, like my Diego transmission. And it would come just like that. I had one other thing that I wanted to sort of ask you about, which I think is interesting. There's a section called Your Heart's Rituals. It's on page 130. And I have to fess up to something uncomfortable. Unprescribed, unplanned rituals of the heart connect us to moments of care for ourselves, those with whom we come into contact, and our world. Allowing yourself to create nurturing rituals and practices of your own to honor what you're working on becomes natural. Rituals can be instrumental in stewarding yourself through hard times. As you consider rituals for yourself, take care to discern the difference between supporting yourself and hiding from yourself. And such an interesting thing happened. I was at Tassajara this year, and there were many practitioners of many different kinds. We were meeting all together sort of as a summit, combining all of our understandings. Of course, I'm a student of Zen and a student of Shunryu Suzuki, is the founder of this monastery. It's buried south of San Francisco. It's in the mountains. It was founded in the late 60s, early 70s is when it really came online. And to get there, you have to either be part of a group or a student of many moons at Zen Center in San Francisco, at Green Gulch also. And so, wow, to get there just as part of this group, this multi-dimensional, very dynamic group of different practitioners was an incredible boon. And at one point, there was a ritual that was happening with our group, and I had the opportunity to go to this ritual or go to Zazen. And I chose Zazen just because the place, to be there is so special. It's such an opportunity for me to be in the field of the practice and sink into myself with the support of that field. And as I read this today, I was going through the book in preparation for our chat, and I read it, and I was just a little bit regretting that I didn't go to see another kind of ritual being practiced. And I just wondered what your thoughts are. Like, there's no right or wrong. I know that, but I just wonder what your thoughts are here.
When you said that you chose to go sit, I just like broke out in a big smile. That to me seems like totally the right thing. I don't know. I've actually never been to Tassajara. It's been part of the sort of landscape of my life, my whole life, and in the stories of my family and of my inherited lineage. But I've never been there. But I don't know. I guess just in the spirit of what we've been talking about what this book is, to rituals are so important, and practice is a ritual. Zazen is a ritual. Let's not discount that, but to choose that simplicity in that space that has held practitioners for so long and holds Suzuki Roshi's spirit. I'm so glad you made that choice.
Thank you for that. I was worried. You know how we get so dualistic. And I was like, did I do the right thing? Oh my goodness. And I saw photos of the thing afterward, and it was beautiful with many candles and beautiful everything. And oh gosh, it was just so interesting to have that. Thank you for the affirmation. And who knows what's right or wrong in the end, really.
Well, so I mean, sweet. FOMO's real, but it passes.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the last notes, I thought it might be nice to go over one or two of the prompts on page 224. I flagged this for us. What's ending in your life these days, I wonder, Sara, for you, and what might be beginning?
Well, I had an experience recently of a habitual pattern that I have thought that I had sort of overcome or gone through, let go of, that I wasn't going to do it anymore. And it came up again recently. And over the last handful of years, as it has come up, and each time I've been like, oh, I thought I was done with you. And it's like another layer of the onion. And I met it with practice this time instead of with my neuroses. And I'm not sure if it's the end. I think maybe there's something in that pattern that is a teacher, but I do feel like at least the end of my relationship to that pattern being one of, I don't know, entanglement and woe and feeling bad about myself or whatever. So I'm not sure if that pattern of behavior is totally done, but the way that I am meeting it, that part I am ending. I'm ending that entanglement.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy to see those. I have one or two that are so insidious.
Yeah, I will say I have a sense of humor about it too, But I'm a Buddhist, and sometimes it feels like almost trite, or like it could almost not be thoughtful to say that practice is good for everything. But man, meditation's good for everything. It really
is true.
It's just like, I think the last time I ever posted on Instagram, maybe it was right at the start of the pandemic, and I wrote sort of a love letter to yoga. And I was talking about yoga, but I was also talking about meditation. And the thing is that it's always right there for you. It's a friend that will never let you down, and it's available at every single moment. And all we have to do is show up in that relationship. Nothing else is asked of us. And it's there to hold us and guide us. And it's not going anywhere. It's not judging. It's just there. And all we have to do is sit. And it's the hardest thing to do, but there's nothing better. There's really nothing better. And in the process of working on this book with you, and after that reading that you referred to, my reading of the manuscript when I was in that remote place in British Columbia, I came away wanting to sort of like somehow title this or say in the copy or something, this is a love letter to meditation. Because it is all of the stories, all of the contemplations, all of the heart that is within these pages, and the artwork too is a love letter to meditation. And what could be better?
It's really true. What could be better? I think one last sort of closing note, when you said that when you sit down, there's your friend, that's always there for you. And I thought, it took time for that to be true. At first, I was not my friend. I was really perhaps the exact opposite of that, and giving myself so much anxiety and doubt and fear and perpetuating it with all of the habit energy that I had and still sometimes have. But over time, meditation does become one's best friend. It does become a place of total refuge where when you sit, there's nothing else to do but join your life, and be for yourself what you wish everyone else would be, in full attunement. And I think that's a really cool way to end, actually. Just thank you so much, Sara, for being here. Thanks for sharing a little bit of yourself too.
Thank you, Elena. This project has been one of the most fulfilling of my life, really, of my career as a publisher. The collaboration, the trust, and the creation of something so poignant and beautiful has been such a gift and has really breathed life into my passion for what I do. So thank you so much, too.
Thank you.